All right, I'm Julian Jackson with .NET. All right, I'm Julian Jackson with the Dynamic Agents and team leader of J Prime Realty Group with LPT Realty. So I've been wanting to go through this organizational chart because I've been putting a lot of thought to it and realized that pretty much everyone that I've trained in real estate since 2007 or 8, when I first started, I was a mortgage professional, and real estate agents would come and ask me to help them with the contracts because the first page obviously had the financing numbers, and a lot of times the new agents weren't getting as much help as they thought they should from their brokers. Well, being new in the business, I thought, why not go ahead and do what I could to help out, and it ended up being a full time thing. And I ended up getting a lot of business as a mortgage broker by working with realtors. But with that being said, I decided, a few years later to switch over. Went to I retired from the military in 2010, went to law school, and then I switched over and started doing real estate a few years later and had both my mortgage and real estate license. But the one thing that I noticed with every single person that I worked with in real estate that was brand new and hadn't had a business in the past, they typically had just switched over from a W 2 position. They didn't understand that they were now an entrepreneur as an independent contractor and what that meant. But having a background in taxes, I understood when you became an independent contractor, you are now working for yourself. And there are certain things that you have to do without the guidance of a supervisor or a manager. Now, they do give you a chance for an apprenticeship. Once you work through that apprenticeship, you should be able to do your own thing. I always give the example of a painter. If someone wanted to, learn how to paint under, you know, anyone who like Van Gogh or somebody who is really good at painting, you want to do an apprenticeship with them, yes, you're going to learn a lot of stuff from them. Usually it's the structure of how they do their business. You're not going to paint exactly like they do, but it's going to be along the same lines. You're going to pick up certain things from them that you wouldn't have learned other places. And you have the right to get that apprenticeship, that residency is what they might call it in the medical field or something like that, where you're learning from some of the folks that are really good at this, who've found success at it and are showing you their structure, and you learn from it. But it's still your business. In the end, you're trying to graduate from that situation and move forward. Now, some real estate businesses have figured out that a lot of agents don't understand this, so they treat you like a W 2 employee, keep you locked in, make you sign contracts saying that you have to stay with them for 1 or 2 years, but they don't explain to you that you should be growing and becoming autonomous so you can do all this stuff on your own. And the reason that is because you are the CEO. You're the CEO of this company. And I think the best way for people to understand what that means so that you're not lost, because I remember when I first got started, everybody was trying to explain to me how this worked. And I went through the same iterations of not understanding, and it finally sunk in. And I'm like, man, I wish somebody had just explained this to me from the beginning that, org structure is an org structure, but no one's used to being the CEO. If you've always been an employee, that's how we think. So it takes a minute. And then you have to run a small business or a hobby business or different things. And all of a sudden you realize, whoa, there's a whole lot more to this than just waiting on someone to tell me what to do. And so I decided that maybe real estate agent business organizational chart is the right way to go. So when I think about the org chart, from my perspective, I'm just going to spell it out exactly the way it would be spelled out if you were in any business, right? You want to see what that looks like. I call this the base team. You're an agent, but you're the CEO. You need a transaction coordinator, you need a marketing manager, and you need an inside sales agent. So if you know what all these do, and I'll get to what they do here in a minute, but if you knew what every one of these does, you would understand that this is all part of your business, right? There's a lot that the agent does. You're going to be part of the sales team, which means you're going to be a listing agent and a buyer agent. There's going to be skills you need to set appointments, skills you need to close. And typically, as an agent, that's the one thing you can't hand off is the closing. Getting someone to understand what the process looks like to buy or sell a home, that's on you. Transaction coordinator can handle the paperwork. The marketing manager can help you with your brand and get the leads and continue your marketing afterwards for follow-up. They can do all that for you. But it would make sense if you learn how to do all this first, right? And then the inside sales agents, those are the ones that handle inbound and outbound calls and maybe set appointments for you. But they can't go and close a deal. That's the one thing that falls on the agent, and you can't hand it off. So if you think about it from that standpoint, when you're the CEO and you're just getting started, you're all of these things. You're all of these things. As an agent, you're the transaction coordinator, the marketing manager, the inside sales agent, you're the closer. You're all of those things. And you have to be responsible for all those duties. I call that the base team. Now, the truth is, this team right here could take you a long way. But in the beginning, it's only going to be you. So I think what would be productive is to explain like when to hire some of these positions, right? Well, my thought process used to be a little different. Like maybe after 2 or 3 deals, decide if you want a transaction coordinator. I've decided it's exactly the opposite. Start with a transaction coordinator. I compare transaction coordinators, especially if they have at least 10 years of experience. I'd say maybe 8 to 10 years of experience. You might find some are really good after 5 years, but typically 8 to 10 years, they're going to be really good at what they do. And I think of them like when I was an instructor pilot or when I was a student learning to fly in the military, we always had an instructor pilot. Well, the instructor pilot's the one who's done this year after year after year. They've learned the basics. Now they know the advanced stuff. And I'm not going to get in a helicopter and figure it out without someone sharing it with me. Even if that's possible, the amount of people that would die trying to learn how to fly a helicopter on their own with no one that had previous experience sharing it with them would be ungodly. So if I'm thinking about real estate or any business for that matter, how do I learn these things without taking that kind of risk if it was do or die or correction, literally do or die? If I couldn't do it, I died. Well, a transaction coordinator is going to be the one that makes sure that I don't mess up the paperwork. They're the ones that are going to know all the deadlines, what happens in the contract, how to lose earnest money, how to make sure you protect the earnest money, what things need to be taken care of, and what critical timelines are established, and all that stuff. You have to have that knowledge to be pretty good. Now, some people say, well, maybe I should have a broker do that. Well, if there's 100 people that fall under a broker, do you really think they're going to have time to coordinate everything for you? They might have to hire a staff to do that. And what most brokers call transaction coordinators is actually just compliance paperwork. They're not going to have them coordinate the whole thing for you. The good thing about transaction coordinators is they typically don't get paid, at least on the contract to close portion, until the deal closes. So you're not out of anything unless you make some money. If you hire a transaction coordinator right off the bat, it will also put pressure on you to go find business and stop making excuses not to. When you have someone, you're like, oh, I went and got a transaction coordinator, I look kind of weird not having business for them. But most people won't hire one because they don't really want to do the work. And that's fine. Some people just hang their license. But if you're serious and you're following this plan, this is what is going to get you there. Now, again, transaction coordinator, ASAP. Marketing manager, once you have a marketing schedule and a checklist. So if you have a coach or a mentor, they're going to help you, right? And that person should be able to help you first and foremost with your marketing, help you with a schedule on when to market, a checklist on all the things you could do to market. Now, what are you marketing? You're marketing your brand and you're marketing for lead generation. So once you've had that down till you have it somewhat fine-tuned to a place, again, where you have a schedule to follow and a checklist to follow, then you might say, all right, I'm going to find me a marketing manager. I'm just going to let them take over this schedule and give them these checklists to follow. And that's it. If you find someone who's willing to do that, you're going to be in fantastic shape. Now, the only thing you got to work on is the inside sales skills and meeting people and closing them. And then you'll have your transaction coordinator close the deal, and they can even track the paperwork if you need it. But you're probably going to want someone to do that as well. That's going to be you until you find maybe an operations manager. Now, with that being said, when do you get an inside sales agent? Once you determine best practices and have SOPs. So if you have best practices, it's probably every 3 months or so, you should be tracking to see if you're on point for your goals. If you're not on point for your goals, you're probably not ready for an ISA. But rather than tell you not to get one, once you feel like you're even close, I would say start looking for one, see what they can do for you. Because again, just like the transaction coordinator, maybe you might want to get one, try them out. They're going to cost you money though. So the problem's going to be, do you run out of money before they help you? Transaction coordinator, no brainer. So once you do have a few deals closed, hire one, see what it's like, make those mistakes. If you got everything the way it should be, and sometimes these inside sales agents may already have these skills. So if you have an experienced one, again, that might help you out. They're going to be a lot more expensive. So make sure you have the deals coming in to support that. But once you determine your best practices and you have SOPs, or you run into an inside sales agent that can help you develop those, then that problem gets solved. So with this base team, you could potentially handle between 50 to 100 transactions, and potentially more if you're highly organized and have a lot of automation. Now, not going to get into automation here. I'm just talking about the team itself. So from here, where do you go? Well, it depends on how big you want to grow. But if you just want a base team where it's just you and a few people to help you get the most out of your business without having to go to the extremes, this is the answer. Now, if you want to go to the next level, I would call this a flex team. You just got to remember you're the CEO. Remember I talked about the COO, the Chief Operations Officer, the Administrative Assistant? Well, the COO might have an administrative assistant, because if you have like 300, 400 people, you're growing a huge brokerage across the state or across the country, then all this stuff has to be part of what you're doing. So you have the COO, you have the administrative assistant, but we talked about the marketing manager. You hire that person. They're going to be in charge of branding and lead gen. Then you got business development. We'll get into the roles here in a second. Sales manager, transaction manager, your buyer agent, listing agent, and then your inside sales agent. All these roles have to be filled to kind of help you out. Now, what does that look like? All right, the CEO, team leader, broker, oversees a team, sets goals, ensures compliance, coordinates high-level decision-making. I'm sure everyone who's been around knows that, what's going on. But this CEO doesn't always have to do all the things we just described, right? Someone can come in and look at your business and say, you know what? I love what you're doing here. I'll just fund the whole thing for you. But I am definitely going to oversee what's going on here. I'm going to set some goals, and I'm going to coordinate high-level decisions. Now, probably going to coordinate with you to do that. But that would probably put you in the position of the COO. But if you're at the top and you're running the show because you want to make these decisions, you'll be the CEO. And then you could step into this role, operations manager. Now, the operations manager manages day-to-day operations, ensures smooth workflows, and handles team issues. So, yes, you're going to be the one that's directly involved with the team and handling all those issues. Some of those folks may fall directly under you, some may not. Now, the next role would be the business development manager. Identifies and pursues new business opportunities, builds and maintains relationships with potential clients and partners, and develops strategies to expand the company's market presence. So if you've ever been with a brokerage that's growing, obviously they have a business development manager and probably a business development department. But a lot of times that falls under recruiting. So yes, you have to be the business development person as well, and you're going to have to learn how to develop these strategies, grow the company, which involves recruiting. So with that being said, you won't be able to handle everything on your own. See, the chief operations officer may also be your trainer. But there's a point where if you get even bigger, you have to have a training department. Then from there, you have your sales manager, all the roles we talked about. So they lead the sales team, both the buyer and listing side. They work with clients to look to purchase properties, coordinate showings, negotiate offers. They work with clients to list and sell their properties, prepare listings, and market their properties. Again, the transaction manager manages paperwork timelines for the transactions, as I mentioned. That's what you want, someone that can take care of that for you. Ensures all documents are completed. That's a major deal. It's all about compliance, especially in this highly regulated industry. Then they manage deadlines for smooth closing. And that's what you want, someone who keeps up with the critical timelines and make sure you don't miss those, because that can be detrimental to your client. Losing earnest money is never fun. And if you don't know the deadlines, you can't remember the difference between a business day and an actual calendar day when it comes to real estate, you can find yourself in a lot of trouble. And there's really no need to do that, especially if you hired a transaction coordinator in the beginning, and now you find someone that you know can get the job done. You're not worried about that. And even if you didn't use them any longer, they would have worked with you long enough to keep you on point so you know all those critical tasks and timelines. Then there's a buyer agent. They work directly with clients, conduct property showings, provide market analysis, work with the clients to purchase properties, and then they go negotiate offers. But if you're in the business, you already know this. This is what you typically learn to do when you first get started. But don't forget, you're the CEO. So not only you're doing this, you're wearing multiple hats and doing even more. Same with the listing agent. You work with sellers to prepare the homes, you conduct market analysis, you handle the showings, or you can get a showing agent. That might be one of the things you do if you're high into listings and you don't want to show a lot of homes. Then you negotiate offers on behalf of the seller, work with clients to list and sell their properties. And then, of course, you market the property. If you don't have a marketing plan, that's probably not good. So there's things you might have to develop for each one of these so that you are ahead of the competition, that you're one of the best and not just getting by. But again, if you think about why this is all so important, when you first got started, you had to do all this. So in order for you to get really good, you got to figure out what things you're going to focus on that bring you the most money. And from my perspective, you're going to have to eventually narrow it down to doing the things that only you as an agent can do and leave all the rest of the stuff to someone else. Now, if you're happy with the amount of production you're doing with the base team, then just stay with your base team. A lot of agents are only going to use a transaction coordinator and work for themselves. They'll probably get up to 25 to 30 deals and they'll be happy. If that's what you want, then just a transaction coordinator. If you want to go to the next level, you're going to have to hire a marketing manager. Absolutely have to, because they'll take all that marketing off your plate, but it has to be marketing that's already worked for you that you can share with them, or maybe they have some skills on their own and can figure out how to market as well. You got to remember, when they spend their time working on marketing, that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to get better and better at marketing while you're getting better at listing and selling homes. Now, inside sales agents, they handle inbound and outbound calls. So if your marketing manager is generating a whole lot of business and it's coming in, you don't want to keep taking all the calls because that's going to keep you from meeting people. I heard a saying a while back and always adopted it when I share it with other people. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. You want to get out there and shake hands. You want to go out and meet people. Being on the phone is not going to help you make as much money as being in front of people. See, inside sales agents can follow a script. As long as they don't make mistakes over the phone based on the scripts and you tell them they have to or they get fired, then you can use inside sales agents to set your appointments for you. There's also automation that can do this for you. But the truth is, if you're spending all your time on inbound and outbound calls, you're definitely not going to have enough time to meet as many people as you possibly could. And if someone can set those appointments and you just go on the appointments, you're doing great. And of course, this person could also maintain your database. So as we look through all the information we've seen, this is what this is all about. We want to make sure that you understand completely what it looks like when you're thinking about building a team, all the roles you have to play. And if you look over this chart and understand that there's got to be a point where you determine that you're only going to take on one of these roles, not all of them, at a certain point in your real estate career, because this is a business and you are the CEO.